back to Lay's Garage, episode 6 of the turbo tonner build. This episode we're going to prep the engine, clutch and gearbox ready to go into the tonner. I'll take you over the engine and I'll tell you what I've done to it and maybe throw some pictures in there. Right, the engine's from a 2004 VZ Commodore here in Australia. It's alloy block, 5.7 litre, I think it's 346 cube. They do come out with the electric throttle body, but it's been changed to the VY setup to suit the car. Remember, the key point when converting your V6 to V8, you've got to get the same loom model as your car. So in this case it's VY. Now this is going to be turbocharged, so I've done a bit of work to prep this engine. I have taken it apart and gapped the ring. Standard, the bottom ring was 22 thou, the top ring was 16. I filed them out to bottom ring at 24 thou, top ring to 26 thou. After gapping the rings, putting it back together, I just reused the standard rod bolts, torqued them up. I think it was 40 foot-pounds I torqued them up to. Then went and put the heads back on. Before I put the heads on, I put the pack valve springs in there. Twelve 19s I think now, or 12 18s. I can't really remember, it was a while ago. Anyway, threw the heads back on and reused the standard head bolts. Went 25 foot-pounds, passed through them, and then went to 55 to finish them up. And obviously I used the standard head gaskets, but I just sprayed them in the Permatex copper coat spray. Made sure everything was clean. And that's it. It's still standard cam. I want the nice smooth idle daily driver style. And with the rings being opened up, I think it's going to breathe a bit harder, so I added the catch can to catch the soot that's going to come out the rocker covers. You can see it hooks in there, and the other one comes around the back and hooks in here. I've also got an aftermarket oil pressure sensor there because I actually want to know my oil pressure, not just a warning light. Also, I drilled out this standard oil pump fitting here for the feed for the turbo. I've got a bung in it now because I'm going to fire this thing up aspirated first, so I've got a little bung in it. And also I put a dash 10 return in the sump as well. And yeah, pretty standard motor, pretty budget. Hopefully it goes good. I did do some mods to the loom as well. The air temp sensor normally comes out here for the standard airbox. I had to extend that so it can reach over into the intercooler piping. The water temp sensor is normally in here, comes out of this loom. I moved it, routed it back out of the way of the turbo so it doesn't melt. It's in the back of the head this side now. Just unwrapped the whole loom, recovered it all, tidied it up. Nothing too serious. Any questions you can ask me in the comments, I can tell you a bit more about it specifically. So yeah, that's the engine. Nothing too fancy. Should still, I'd say, make 500 horsepower to the wheel through the manual easily. 10 pounds of boost, I'd say. Alright, the gearbox is T56 Tremec. It's out of a VY Commodore. It's actually out of the wreck. Internally standard. The only thing it does have a rip style shifter in it. Sort of, you can pull on that gear stick pretty hard, and I think it works alright. The shifter throw seems a bit smaller and shorter than standard. It seems to work okay. Yeah, pretty standard stuff there. And my new clutch that I bought, it was a Blue Steel brand. Power Torque Blue Steel. I just rung the clutch experts here in Australia, and this is this is what they recommended as the pressure plate. It's upgraded supposedly 20 or 30% more. They send you a new slave cylinder, all the flywheel bolts and pressure plate bolts, and I've got this is separate, this didn't come in the kit, an extended bleed nipple so I can bleed the clutch. Standard, it doesn't hang out far enough to get like a hose and bleed it properly. It's a pain in the arse, so those longer ones make it a lot better, so I swap all that out. Comes with this grooved flywheel, which is pretty impressive. Supposedly it helps dissipate heat and increase bite. And here's the clutch plate. It's sprung loaded, ceramic metallic both sides, so I think it'll have a fair bit of bite, but hopefully the springs take out some of that brutalness that your normal brass button style clutch would have. So hopefully it's got the hold but not the brutalness. We'll see. Clutch alignment tool there as well, pretty standard stuff. So yeah, we'll get the donk off the stand and we'll get that flywheel on. Get ready to put the clutch on so we can bolt all this together and get it ready to get in the car. Engine's off the stand. I'll put it down on a bit of plywood just to protect the sump a little bit. But I put my breaker bar on the harmonic balancer bolt and wedge it against the ground so that you can torque this flywheel up without it messing with you, without it turning over. So flywheel is already on, I torqued it on. The spec said 15 foot-pounds first pass, then 37, and then 75. Now my torque wrench doesn't even go light enough for 15, so I just ratchet just a tiny bit tight. Did the pass 37, did every second bolt, then swap, do every second bolt, then a star pattern, then 75. So it's all torqued up, ready to go. One thing that this kit does come with is it normally would come with, there it is, a little roller bearing for the spigot. I'm not a real big fan of these. Every one I've ever seen's failed, so on the spigot they normally have this little roller bearing, brand new one, goes in here. Supports the nose of the gearbox, I suppose, in the back of the crank. Now you can imagine the beating that that bearing gets, and they just overheat, dry up, fail, and then it ends up squealing on the nose. And it's a terrible sound, so I put a bronze bush in there. There's no moving parts. It's obviously bronze being a softer material, it can handle the abuse. So I put the bronze bush in there. Use a puller to get the old one out. You'll see on YouTube how to get spigot bearings out with bread and grease and stuff. Don't do that to an LS. There's actually a plug in the back of the crank that you can push through, so do not use what they call the hydraulic method to get it out. Use an actual blind puller. Get it out, and yeah, definitely recommend the bronze bush over the bearing, the roller bearing. Okay, flywheel is on. Next step is I'm going to take all this off, put the new concentric slave cylinder in, a few bolts. Where's the other one's down there. Undo the line, pretty simple, and I'll leave that bleed nipple on because I'm not reusing it. So yeah, I'll get back. Slave cylinder's off. One thing I didn't mention before was when I went to slide the flywheel on, it was a bit of a tight fit, and I didn't want the interference between the flange and the flywheel to stuff with my torque setting, so I got my little flapper sander on my Dremel grinder and just took that skim of paint off the inside edge of that flywheel, so it was a nice slide on. Just another tip, you don't want friction there, it'll stuff with the torque setting, I'd say. So now I'll bolt all the new slave cylinder back on. It's so easy, unbolt, bolt on, very basic. And I'll also acetone wipe this flywheel down, make sure there's no grease and stuff on it. Clean, ready to put the plate and the pressure plate on. New slaves installed with the extended bleed nipple. Pretty basic stuff in there. I did get a bit of grease and just rub it into the splines and that gearbox. Also acetone wiped all the clutch surface down and the pressure plate surface, and I'm glad I did because the residue that came off there was definitely apparent. You can see it on the rag. So now what I'll do is use the clutch tool and get the plate on and the pressure plate on. Pretty simple. Clutch tool goes in the center. You'll see that that will help line up the plate. Hopefully it goes through the center there, which it doesn't. Take that stupid thing out, it does. Plate actually says flywheel side there, makes it easy. Shimmy that afterwards. Pressure plate. Oh. You want to try and, as you bring this up, you just want to wriggle that and get that nice and centered and squared. Those two there I just put in, I didn't put Loctite on. I will bring them back out. I'll put a bit of Loctite on them. These ones here. Something about these bolts coming out that I just would dread. I know they've got spring washers, but the Loctite for security, why not? So yeah, you get the idea. Pretty simple. Pretty exciting stuff, getting this stuff ready to go in the car. This was actually one of the most expensive parts that I had to buy. So yeah, good stuff getting it in. Anyway, you get the idea. Pull these ones out now. Put Loctite on them. And before I fully wrench it down, you can still move this around a bit. Might have to loosen it, but just to double make sure that that tool is smack bang in the middle, so that when it comes time to mate it up to the gearbox, it just slides in nice and easy. So I'll go through and get all these tightened down and make sure that's all centered. I'll stuff around for a bit to make sure it's exactly right, and then we'll get on to bolting the gearbox onto it. Alright, clutch is installed. What I did do is just slowly do the bolts up a couple of turns at a time, just slowly bringing that plate in. And there's some serious pressure on that plate, which is good to know. It took a bit to actually get it to go up, and yeah, slowly went up. But you can see that you'll know you got it right when you can just push the alignment tool in and out that easily. It should line up quite nicely with the spigot. So it's all fully tightened down. Really happy with the pressure that's sitting on there at the moment. And yeah, I'll get this thing up and get it lined up ready to put onto the gearbox. Working on getting this gearbox on. So I've got the engine jacked up on the crane. I've got the gearbox on the crate and just going to get the two surfaces parallel, the right height. You know, I use a couple of blocks of wood here and there to get the angles right, so you can slide that in with the least amount of effort. So next step, it will be on. It bolted up nicely. Took it off the jack, took it off the crate, brought it back, getting it ready to slide into the car. I did also have to put the little inspection covers on. There's another one on the starter motor side too. Grey one in underneath there. Got them on. Did all the bolts up. Yeah. I haven't pulled the gearbox loom down ready. I like to keep that up out of the way until it's in the car, then poke it down there so it doesn't get caught up on anything. That'll do for this video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, comment if you've got any questions, subscribe if you want to watch the build. It's going to get interesting now. Next episode I'm going to put the engine in the car and start hooking everything up, get it started up, aspirated in the next one. Hit the bell if you want to get notified when my next video is, so you can see how I'm going along. Alright, thanks for watching.